We're going to try to beat every difficulty of Frozen Over without reusing a single monkey or hero, meaning if we use Benjamin and a dart monkey on easy, we won't be able to use either of them again for the rest of the challenge. We started off on easy with Brickle and a beast handler, probably a bit overkill for the first mode, but I wanted to get off to a good start. We put Brickle in the middle of the pool and the beast handler just below her. This handled the early game and let us slowly build up our beast handler to a 2-2-0, putting the Atosaurus up front to pop the lead balloons and the Barracuda by Brickle for general popping power. This coasted all the way to round 18 where we purchased the Great White upgrade. Going into this run, I wasn't sure what upgrades we were going to get, but because I almost never go the top path on the beast handler, the Great White stood out to me. Unfortunately, we won't really get to see the true power of this guy because the game will end after round 40 and we're only allowed one beast handler for this entire challenge. So we won't be able to merge some beasts together to make them more powerful. Now on round 30, I spent quite a bit of money leveling up Brickle. This is a common thing to do in a challenge like this because we can't get any more monkeys down, and I didn't think we'd get enough for an orca by round 40. But this was the only time I regretted it, as we were less than $1,000 off of this upgrade when the Moab came, and it would have been fun to see the orca one-shot it. But we managed to pop it anyway and get through our first difficulty only using the beast handler and Brickle. Next, we have primary only with Adora and the bomb shooter. This does mean we have absolutely no camo detection, but that won't be a problem. Probably. Luckily, on easy difficulties, we can afford Adora right off the bat, so we started with her in the middle of the track, just to the left of the water. This very easily let us get a bomb shooter and slowly upgraded all the way to a 2-4-0 Moab assassin. We afforded this guy right after the first camo came in around 24, which we had to pop using the monkey knowledge road spikes at the end of the track. For the rest of the run, we just spent our money leveling up Adora whenever we had enough and watched all of the camos get by. Round 33 was the first time they got through the road spikes, but they didn't stop there. They also took out our mana shield and brought us down to 170 lives. We built back up 10 mana shield lives over the next 2 rounds, but then the camo greens came on 36. We tanked all 20 of them, bringing us down to 120 lives, but we popped every non-camo balloon of the run so far. This continued through the next round as we popped everything except for the 7 camo whites, bringing us down to 43 lives. But those are the last camos we'll face this run. In fact, those are the last balloons that'll even make it close to the exit. Rounds 38 and 39 were destroyed by Adora as we didn't even need to use an ability, and then we popped the round 40 Moab with our bomb's assassinate Moab ability. Boom, primary only is over. On to Deflation, where we budgeted Rosalia, the village, and the engineer. Our crosspaths were a 2-3-0 monkey intelligence bureau and a 4-2-0 sentry expert. This will give us plenty of popping power as well as letting us pop every type of balloon pretty easily. I don't really know what to say here other than it absolutely crushed. We just had to fly Rosalia to a decent spot and set her to grenade mode, and then the monkeys took over. We didn't even have to use an ability until round 60, where we popped the BFB with our scatter missile and jetpack abilities, though even here they probably weren't needed. So we've beaten 3 easy difficulties and only used 7 monkeys total. Not bad. But on to medium, where we have Ezili, the glue gunner, and tack shooter. Here we could actually afford to start with all 3 since we have the monkey knowledge points for extra starting cash and a free glue gunner at the start of the game. We put all 3 in the triangle near the front of the track, set Ezili and the glue gunner to strong, and started upgrading the tack shooter. We made this guy a 2-0-3 on round 8 and started working on our glue gunner. We made him a 2-1-0 corrosive glue at the end of round 10, and our popping power was pretty unique. Between Ezili and the glue gunner, most of our popping power was damage over time effect. For the next several rounds, barely any balloons made it to the tack shooter. They would just get slowed and whittled down by corrosive glue and magic. Probably not the most fun way to go out as a balloon, but this countered the rounds pretty well. The strong dot effect soaked through balloon layers, causing them to crush the space strong balloons being sent our way, and there weren't any rounds that had big enough rushes of weaker balloons to get past. In fact, this setup let us save all the way to an overdrive, which we got on round 23. Now, our defenses are looking solid, and we still have plenty of upgrades to get on the glue gunner. We picked up glue splatter to give him some more pierce, and then worked our way down the top path. But our main problem of the run was about to start coming. Camos. Round 33 was upon us, and our only monkey that can see them was Ezili. Luckily, she could handle these camo yellows and reds on her own, and the round right after that, she unlocked her sacrificial totem. This will give all of our towers camo detection, along with several other buffs, at the cost of only 10 lives. We just have to be careful of its cooldown, as we don't want to enter a camo round with this thing not available. The first time we used this was on the round 37 camo white. This let us test out the totem, pop the whites easily, and it'll be off cooldown by the time more camos get sent our way. We got our balloon liquefier on round 39, just in time for the Moab. Ezili and the glue gunner brought this pufferfish down to half health before it even made it to the overdrive, but once it reached the tack shooter, this tanky outer layer was popped quickly and the ceramics inside were shredded by our 3 towers. But now we're on to the hardest part of the run. The 40s. It's rare that the 40s are that difficult, but there are several camo rounds that we'll have to deal with, and the totem's cooldown is very long, so we need to be careful. Luckily, Ezili was able to handle the 5 camo rainbows on round 42 without a totem, and she even popped the 10 camo purples on round 45 with only her level 3 ability. This saved us 20 lives, but rounds 47 and 48 are the true test as they're back-to-back rounds with camos. We popped a totem once round 47's camo pinks were about halfway through the map, and it lasted all the way until the camo purples came on 48. If it lasted a few seconds longer, it would have been perfect, but without it, we were able to get past the round with Heartstopper and have Ezili pop as many purples as she could. This caused us to leak 6 purples, but between the road spikes, mana shield, and 130 lives, we were able to survive. But this brings us to round 50, where we had a dilemma. What tower should we upgrade? The tack zone works much better with Ezili's totem, as it loves the extra pierce she provides, but the Bloons solver is my favorite upgrade in the game. Needless to say, we made our glue gunner a 520 here and continued on. Additionally, Ezili recently hit level 9, meaning her main attack now strips the camo, regrow, and fortified property off Bloons. This made the round 51 camo ceramics a piece of cake, as she just made them spaced out ceramics, which we can easily deal with. Round 53 did need a totem though. While the Bloons themselves were easy to pop, 80 camo pinks were too much for Ezili to keep up with. So spending 10 lives on a totem was a great trade-off, as we would have leaked tons of them had we not used this ability. The totem came off cooldown just in time for round 56 and his 40 camo rainbows, but Ezili's camo stripping was just enough to beat this round without it. We had to micro her a tiny bit to attack the last 2 camos, but this once again saved us some lives, and Ezili hit level 10 once we beat this round. The final few rounds were easy. No abilities were needed until round 60, where we popped Moab Hex and Sacrificial Totem to take down the BFB and beat medium mode. On to military only, where we're bringing in Quincy and the Dartling Gunner, 2 very solid towers for a challenge like this. We started off with Quincy, placing him right where the tack shooter was last game, and saved up for a Dartling Gunner, which we put at the back of the track. We quickly upgraded this guy to a 220, and every round was fairly easy. We just needed to make sure that Quincy hits level 7 by round 28 so that he can take care of the lead balloons. I knew this, planned for it, and still messed it up. I spent most of our money upgrading the Dartling Gunner to a laser cannon right before round 27 ended, and this left us less than $100 off of being able to afford Quincy's exploding arrows. I swear, streaming makes me so much worse at this game. Here, we could have started over and done things right, but instead we pointed our laser cannon at the end of the track and popped as many balloons as we could right after the road spikes took out the lead layers. This let the spikes take out 2 leads, causing us to only leak 4 of them. Not ideal, but after the spikes in mana shield, we were left with 82 lives and a level 7 Quincy. With this, we popped round 30's leads pretty easily, though I did use rapid shot to make sure we'd get them all. From here was pretty smooth sailing. The next rounds I was worried about were 37 and 38 with their layered leads, but Quincy took care of them no problem. We didn't even micro the Dartling Gunner until round 40, but even here it wasn't needed. We popped the Moab before I even moved this guy around, so we just locked his targeting back to the front of the track and continued on. Round 42, we picked up the Plasma Accelerator and speed ran the rounds. Nothing really made it on screen until the round 45 purples, but Quincy took those out pretty quick. On round 48, we moved the Packle back a bit so we could see what balloons were coming our way, and we started spending the rest of our money leveling up Quincy. Probably not necessary, but there's no way we'd be able to afford the next Dartling upgrade, so I figured why not make Quincy a bit stronger. The rest of the run was simple. No micro or abilities needed until the BFB, where we used Quincy's rapid shot to take it out. And the best part was Kramer came in at the end to watch us beat the mode. Next up, we have Impoppable, the first difficult mode we'll face today. We're bringing in Hbomb, the Sniper, and Submarine. We started off with Hbomb near the front and the Sub in the middle body of water. The Sniper and Sub will have to handle most of the camos this game, so I put the Sniper in a spot that would give vision for the Submarine later on. Now, Impoppable is my nemesis, and I was absolutely terrified of camo leads. We have a few ways to take them out, but most would require a bad crosspath. We could have gotten a 220 Submarine, but then we'd be locked into either a reactor or ballistic missiles, or we could pick up FMJ on the Sniper, but I wanted to make this guy a supply drop, and the 042 is better. So to see if they'd really be a problem, we left the Sub as a 200 and slowly upgraded our Sniper to a 030 bouncing bullet. On round 25, I finally gave up on this no crosspath crosspath silliness and made our sniper a 032, accepting that I'd either leak the camo leads or make our sub a 220. Luckily, nothing was an issue until round 39, where some balloons actually got pretty far. The reason for this though was because I still had the sniper set on strong from the beginning of the game, so it wasn't targeting the balloons in front. An easy fix. We changed him to first and quickly got enough money to make him a 042 supply drop, giving him lead popping power and the supply drop ability that'll make us some extra money. This let us get our submarine up to a 204 APD in the 50s, but even with that, we were quickly getting overwhelmed by all the Moabs. Right as this was becoming a problem though, Hbom's wall of trees came off cooldown, letting us safely absorb a Moab, a few ceramics, and plenty of weaker balloons, letting us catch back up and beat round 60. Whew! Right as things were getting spicy, we beat Impoppable. On to the last medium difficulty, reverse mode. Here we started with Striker Jones and put him at the very start/end of the map and saved up for a mortar monkey. We got this guy in round 3 and instantly started freeing Greg, the cave monkey. I wasn't sure how he'd work on reverse mode as he normally goes to the start of the track, which is the end of the track here. And I really wanted him next to Striker as his stun would be very nice at keeping the balloons inside his range, so I was panicking and thinking about moving the mortar to a different difficulty if Greg doesn't go to the right spot. We freed him on round 6 and luckily he went to the top right of the track. Great work, Ninja Kiwi, for thinking about reverse mode. Then we moved the mortar's targeting to the start of the track and rushed signal flare. While not the best upgrade for popping power, we did need some sort of camo detection. We got him to a 023 on round 15, and right at this time we had to start microing it. My least favorite tower in the game to micro, but it was necessary as I wasn't sure how many balloons we'd leak later on this run. From here though, we had a massive save up to shattering shells, so we locked the mortar up front and monitored the rounds. Between the cave monkey's stuns, Striker Jones leveling up, and the mortar's damage over time effects, we were actually doing pretty well. In fact, this let us save all the way up for a shattering shells even without microing the mortar. Around 38 shattering shells, easily the earliest one I've ever seen. Its upgraded burn now deals 5 damage per tick, which was melting the balloon. And we can spend the rest of our money on Striker as we won't be able to afford a balloon incineration by the end of the run. This let us coast around 50 where we had to micro the mortar once again. I messed this up though, and we would have leaked a ceramic, so I exited to home for a retry. I was in the middle of messing up the mortar micro again, but that was nothing a few concussive shells by Striker couldn't fix. On round 52, we spent about 20 grand upgrading Striker to level 12, giving him more popping power, and things got a bit easier. Most of the rounds we still had to finish off some ceramics with a bit of micro, but we started using concussive shell a bit more. We normally use this stun on Moabs, giving us slightly more time to pop them, which led to us burning all the ceramics inside without having to move the mortar. A few pinks made it to the road spikes on round 55, but other than that, we were pretty solid. We didn't let anything leak through round 59, and then we had some fun against 60. We concussive shelled the BFB and the Moabs inside it, then used Striker's target focus ability, which made the mortar's shells follow our mouse for a few seconds. Then we just traced the balloons we wanted popped, and the mortar took them out. I wish we could always have this option, but that's not the case. With that though, we beat the last medium mode and only have 7 hard modes left. Starting with hard standard, we brought in only Corvus. We've basically done a Corvus 1 TC before, so how difficult could a hard run be with just him? Starting off, we did tank round 3 to be able to afford him, but this left us with $973, 100 lives, and 10 mana shield lives heading into round 4. We placed Corvus at the very front of the track so that he could haunt balloons before his spirit popped them, which will give him plenty of mana. Now, Corvus's base spirit can solo the early game, so our only focus is to use Soul Harvest whenever it's up and spend all of his mana on nourishment. This will let us power level him, making the mid and late game much easier. We did this method of spending all our mana and money power leveling until round 25, where we finally used a different spell. Our spirit can't pop the purples that come on this round unless Corvus haunts them, so we cast Trample once they were near the end of the track and moved on. The next challenge was the round 28 leads, and we had a few choices. Do we spend our mana on Ember or Spear to take them out easily, or do we try to get them all with a well-timed Soul Harvest? We went for the latter, so we spirit walked Corvus to the back of the track and took them out with 1 reap of his green spirit scythe. We did this again in round 30, but they were too spread out to get them all. So we cast Ember to take out the final 3 lead balloons. Because of this, round 31 was free, but we needed to cast Trample for the round 32 purples. This took them out just fine, but left us too short on mana to cast Vision for 33. Not the biggest deal as we can tank them all, but I'd like to save as many lives as possible for later in the run. To save a few lives, we used what little mana we had on Soul Barrier and only leaked down to 81 lives. We learned our lesson though. always save some mana. Going into round 36, we had plenty of mana to deal with the camo greens. Once they were all on screen, we cast Vision and Trample. This cleared the round and let us spend the rest of our mana on Nourishment at the start of round 37. Here we let the Spirit do his thing until the lead started coming, where we used Ember to pop them and the zebras, and we cast Vision for the camo white. This left us without Ember for the leads on 38 though, so we soul harvested the first few leads and then cast Spirit to take out the rest. This let us go into round 39 with basically everything off cooldown, and we got to choose what spells to cast. At first we didn't need anything, but slowly the zebras and rainbows crept up the track until we finally turned Spear back on to clear the screen. I probably waited a little too long though, as we did end up leaking 6 Bloons. They all went to the mana shield, but still something we shouldn't have done. Round 40 we toggled Aggression on at the start of the track and let our red Spirit attack away. Then we Spirit walked Corvus to the back of the track and toggled it off once the Moab got to him. This let the Spirit pop the outer layer inside his range and gave us enough time to soul harvest all the ceramics inside. From here, everything was easy. The next notable round was 47, where we unlocked Corvus's level 10 ability Dark Ritual. This is an insane Bloon popper and mana maker, and we used it right away to pop a few ceramics, let us cast Nourishment, get back up to max mana and cast Vision, allowing us to pop all the camo pinks and beat the round. This put us in a pickle for 48 though, as Vision is on cooldown for the camo purple. Luckily for us, we just unlocked Recovery, which we can cast to make our spells come off cooldown twice as fast as normal for the price of some mana and not having the Spirit attack while it's active. This made some pinks leak while Corvus was meditating, but once Vision was off cooldown, the Spirit caught back up and we were able to cast Vision and Trample to pop all these camo purples. Round 51 was a bit tricky, but what we did was cast Vision, let the Spirit take care of the camo ceramics for a bit, and right before Vision wore off, we moved Corvus to the front of the track and cast Dark Ritual. This is nice because Dark Ritual will be able to hit the camos for its entire duration, even if Vision wears off before the Dark Ritual is over. This let us pop the final few camo ceramics after Vision ended, and we pretty easily beat the round. We did this trick again on round 53, as we had to pop 80 camo pinks. We started off by letting them fill the screen, then we cast Vision and the rare Haste spell. We don't use Haste that often, but it did let us wait a little longer before casting Vision, as the Spirit could zoom to the back of the track to pop the balloon. The Spirit quickly caught back up with these camos, and once Vision was almost over, we cast Dark Ritual. This kept the camos at bay while we cast Aggression to pop the 3 Moabs that come on this round. And with all this, we popped everything but 5 camo pinks, which were fully tanked by our mana shield. And from here, we kind of coasted to round 62. Nothing crazy happened during this time, as we just needed to cast Spear and Aggression to deal with any big rushes. Round 62 though, that was a different story. By far the round that took us the longest to beat. There were just so many purples that we had to pop that don't all fit on the screen at once, and after that we had to deal with 5 Moabs, 2 fortified Moabs, and 15 camo rainbows. Talk about a doozy of a round for Corvus. After tons of attempts, this is what we came up with. We started the round with an Echo Repel, which lets us stall the purples like crazy, letting more of them fit on the screen. Then once they got to the very back of the track, we cast Trample. Echo was still active for this, so not only did we get to pop all the purples on screen, but we took out 4 of the 5 Moabs. Next, we cast Frostbound to stall some more purples and reaped as many of them as we could with a Soul Harvest. This gave us some mana to work with, so we cast Soul Barrier to tank the remaining purples, moved Corvus to the back of the track, and once the last purple leaked, we cast Vision and Dark Ritual. This popped all the camo rainbows and gave us the mana to cast Ember, Aggression, and Storm, which let us pop the final 3 Moabs, 2 of which were fortified. Whew, easy. And this is what I had to say. We're like that, baby. Let's go. 62 is free. Not even hard. Yeah. Now it was time for round 63, where we actually had to toggle everything off. It worked better if we just let the base Spirit handle the ceramic rushes, and while there were no ceramics on screen, we'd use Spear to pop all the leads. This is because if we left Spear on, the ceramics would split into multiple balloons and pierce cap our base Spirit. So we had to toggle on and off Spirit to pop all the leads without damaging any ceramic. Kind of a funny problem to have, but we beat the round pretty easily with this strat. Then round 64 just took Aggression, Storm, and eventually Spear to pop them all. The next tough round was round 66, but we got to use one of my favorite spells to beat it, Ancestral Might. We cast this close range spell at the start of the round. It popped everything except for the final 3 Moabs, which we stalled with a repel for a very long time, let the Spirit pop its outer layers, and then cleaned up most of the insides with a Soul Harvest. From here though, it was smooth sailing. We had some weird rounds like 73 where we kept popping the BFBs down into all red Bloons and not having the Pierce to handle them, but every time we found a pretty simple solution. Really, the only round we have to worry about was 78, as it has purple balloons and camos, so let's fast forward to that one. We started with basically every spell and ability off cooldown. We were prepared as the first massive rush of ceramics headed our way, and I was ready to cast whatever spell was required. But because we've spent all of our money in extra mana leveling Corvus up, his base spirit was able to handle the rush on his own. Perks of having a level 17 Corvus by round 78. He continued to solo until the purples started spawning and racing through the track. Here, we waited until they were almost at the end before we cast Vision and Trample. Trample was mostly for the purples, but I figured the camo ceramics would spawn before Trample was over, and this was an easy way to pop them all. And boy was I right. After Trample ended, we just had to pop a few rainbows, and round 78 was a thing of the past. 79 would have been just as easy, but our spirit bugged out, getting stuck right next to Corvus and was unable to move. I think this actually let him deal way more damage when the balloons were next to him, but once the BFBs got past him, it was over. Luckily, reloading the round fixed this, and between Aggression, Echo, Ember, and Frostbound, we were able to pop everything. And that just left the ZOMG, the first one of the video. We started off the round with an overload, then let the spirit attack while we soul harvested a few times to get our mana back. This left us with 4 BFBs to deal with, so we cast Recovery and let Corvus meditate until overload was off cooldown. Here, we were still a little short on mana, so we waited until things were in range of soul harvest and dark ritual, which let us cast overload again, popping the Moabs and beating hard mode with only Corvus. On to Magic Monkeys only, where we'll be bringing in Pat Fusty, the Wizard, and Super Monkey. We started with a 0-1-0 Wizard, and this actually let us save up all the way for Pat, who we placed in the middle of round 7. This is a pretty solid combo, as once we pick up Wall of Fire, our Wizard will be a beast at popping dense packs of balloons, while Pat is great against spaced out stronger ones. In fact, we made our Wizard a 0-2-2 and coasted all the way to round 25, where we faced our first problem. Purples. Pat was set to strong, so he popped as many of them as he could, but 2 of them flew through his short range before we could hit them, meaning they made it all the way to the exit. Fortunately, our road spikes were able to pop almost all of these, as only 1 blue got through, taking out 2 of our mana shield lives. Not bad. At the start of round 27, we got a massive power spike as we purchased Dragon's Breath on our Wizard, making him much better. We're still weak to purples, but that'll be solved next, as it's time to save up for a Super Monkey. Pat and this 0-3-2 Wizard crushed the rounds, letting us get the Super on round 33. Kind of funny, as this round only has camos, so the Super couldn't even help out, but we quickly made this guy a 0-0-2 for that knockback and camo detection. I really wanted to make him a Sun Avatar, but if we picked up Laser Blast, we wouldn't be able to pop camo purples, so we started buying these Super's middle path upgrades. We made him a Robo Monkey on round 46 and set him to first and close. This guy gives us great coverage, as he can pop everything that Pat and the Wizard can't, as well as providing tons of support on ceramics and Moabs with his knockback. This crushed the camo purples on round 48 and left us with some options for what to spend our money on for the rest of the run. The first thing we did was pick up a Summon Phoenix on the Wizard, as this makes his main attack much stronger and gives him a very strong ability, and then we saved up for a Tech Terror. A risky upgrade, as our Super Monkey will lose its ability to pop purples, but everything else will get stronger. Plus, the only purple rounds left are 62 and 78, neither of which are camouflaged. So in theory, Pat should be able to pop the purple layers, and if they do overwhelm us, we can use the Tech Terror's ability to catch back up. Luckily for us, we couldn't even afford it until the end of round 63, so we don't have to worry about the purples on 62. Instantly, the Tech Terror took over, popping almost everything at the very start of the track. The only thing that made it to Pat Fusty were some ceramics when BFBs or fortified Moabs came our way. But this brings us to round 78 and the last round of purples. We absolutely crushed the first rush of ceramics and the BFB, but the purples obviously made it to Pat. Just as planned, he was easily able to keep up, popping all of them without issue. But the second ceramic rush was camouflaged and layered on top of some purples, so I activated the Tech Terror's ability to make sure nothing got by, and just like that, we were on to the final 2 rounds. 79 looked a little scary with his fortified BFBs, but we just used Pat's Roar and Summon Phoenix to take them out quickly. This let us save Pat's Hug for the ZOMG, one of my favorite things to do with Pat, as it just leaves us with 4 stunned BFBs. Our Monkey's main attacks brought them down to Moabs, while we waited for them to clearly be in range of the Tech Terror, and his Annihilation ability one-shot them, completing Magic Monkeys only. Double HP Moabs is next, and we're running Gwen, the Boomerang, and Ice Monkey. Once again, pretty limited on camo camo detection, but we wouldn't have it any other way. We started off with Gwen in the triangle and had her fire away. We let her solo the first 2 rounds while we brainstormed where we should place our monkey. After a bit of discussion, we got the Boomer in the middle of round 6 just below Gwen. This way he had plenty of time to attack, we'll get Gwen's heated up buff, and should be able to reach frozen Bloons in the future. We made this Boomer a 0-2-2 as fast as possible, and then put our ice monkey down in the rhombus at the bottom left. Personally, I think it'd be cool if the ice monkey got an attack speed buff on this map because it's frozen themed, but that might make him a little too good. Anyway, after this we made our Boomerang a 0-3-2 bionic boomer and then popped the round 24 camo green with Gwen's cocktail. It was clear that we'd need more help with camo soon, and we have 2 decent options. The first is making our ice monkey a 2-0-0 cold snap, which we did in round 25, and the second is getting our bionic boomer off to a turbocharge. This doesn't have camo detection naturally, but with the bionic augmentation monkey knowledge point, it can see camos when its ability is active. Between this, the ice monkey, and Gwen's abilities, I'm hoping we'll be able to pop every camo balloon. We managed to make our boomer a 0-4-2 on round 32, which lets its ability come off cooldown for all the camos on 33. Here we messed around with Gwen's cocktail and seeing how many camos the ice monkey can deal with on its own, so we can have a better sense of what to expect for the future. Unfortunately, it wasn't very good as we had to use turbocharge to clean up, and even with that, a camo yellow made it to our road spikes at the end of the track. Not a great performance, but we have time to improve. The next camo round is 36, where we face 2 rushes of camo green. This turned out to be super easy as one cocktail could have popped them all, but we also had upgraded the ice monkey to a 2-2-0, and had Gwen not popped the second rush, the ice monkey could have popped all the greens. So we went from leaking a camo balloon 3 rounds ago to overkilling this one. Not bad. 37's camos were popped with a turbocharge, and we got the money to make our ice monkey a 4-2-0 embrittlement. This let us coast for quite some time, but we did have one problem. Our only upgrades left cost $28,000 and $38,000, so we are forced to save up for quite some time. These 3 towers did well for a while, but once we got to the 50s, we had to start using our abilities to pop the Moabs and couldn't save them for only camos. Because of this, we leaked 2 pinks on round 53. It was avoidable because we had Firestorm ready, but having these 2 get popped by the road spikes was worth keeping Firestorm as a safety net. Luckily, some other camo rounds like 56 were made completely visible by our ice monkey, so we could continue popping Moabs with turbocharge and cocktails. We barely held on through round 57, but at the start of 58 we had the money to make our boomer a 0-5-2, and with this we can save all of our abilities for camos once again, as this guy can pop all the normal balloons on his own. A good example of this was round 70, where the boomer took out all the rainbows and we popped all the camo whites with a Firestorm and then a turbocharge. But this let us save up for a super brittle, which we got on round 75, and from here it was smooth sailing to round 80. Not a single round was difficult, and we even managed to pop the ZOMG before it made it to the super brittle. So our ice monkey didn't even help out with the round. On to half cash, one of, if not the most difficult mode in the game. So we're bringing in Geraldo, the Ninja, and Alchemist, 3 of the best monkeys we have. The only problem is that all 3 are too expensive to start with, so we have to hit play and have our road spikes pop a few balloons for us. Luckily, we only need $5 to be able to afford a Ninja, and we put him right where Gwen was last game. This guy did really well popping the next few rounds without any leaks, and then we picked up Seeking Shurikens. This let him pop everything until the end of round 10, where 2 red balloons finally got by. We're not worried though, because this is exactly the time where we could buy the Ninja Discipline upgrade, making him attack 42.8% faster. We picked up Sharp Shurikens at the beginning of round 14 and started our first big save up. We're going for Geraldo and his NFT, meaning we need to get to $1,430 to be able to afford both right away. The reason for this is because every way of making money in half cash is halved except for sell prices, meaning the NFT can actually give us quite a bit of money if we hold on to it for a while. The hard part is just saving up for it. Things were pretty easy until the 20s, where balloons started getting through. We leaked a few on rounds 21, 22, and 23, but we were getting close to our goal. Luckily, round 24 is easy as it's the first showing of camos, and it put us just $25 away from our goal. So we put down Geraldo, hit play, and got the money for the NFT about halfway through round 25. Now, we just needed more popping power. The easiest and quickest way to do this is getting a shooty turret down, but leads come very soon, meaning we need the Alchemist ASAP, and there was really only one thing to do. Tank 50 lives worth of balloons on round 27 so we could buy the Elk for 28. Down to just 29 lives, we put the Elk where he could only buff the Ninja, set him to strong, and hit play. This beat the next couple rounds, and we were well on our way to buying double shot. This will be a huge jump in power for us, but we were a bit weak for round 31 as enough balloons got by to bring us down to just 15 lives. Oof. We probably would have leaked on 32, but right as the balloons were getting far, we made our ninja a 301, and in the middle of 33, we picked up caltrops, so our defenses actually got pretty decent. Next up was upgrading our alchemist to a berserker brew. This wasn't too bad, as between our 3 towers, we had about exactly as much popping power as was needed for each round. Camos and leads were both handled, and large rushes weren't too difficult. But once we had enough money for berserker brew, I got a bit greedy. I wanted to make it all the way to a balloon jitsu, so we'd be better prepared for the Moab. This made us leak a few balloons on round 38 and a ton on 39, so after one attempt of leaking way too many balloons, we folded and upgraded our elk to a 300. This might put us in a tough spot for the Moab, so I put down a glue where I thought it would pop. With this setup, we popped the Moab layer and glued the ceramics inside it, giving us enough time to pop them all. The next few rounds were a piece of cake though, and we easily were able to save up for a balloon jitsu, and right after a stronger stim. So we have Geraldo, a 402 ninja, and a 420 alchemist. I wasn't sure what to get next though, so I put a fire spirit on the ninja and started saving money. There's no way we'd get enough for a grandmaster or permabrew at a reasonable time, so we were just chilling. But then Geraldo hit level 10 and we could start placing his bunnies. Over the next several rounds, we placed Hopsy, Flopsy, Button, and Dave whenever they came in stock, and on round 63 we got our killer rabbit. Talk about good timing. But this kind of just cruised through the rest of the game. We picked up Geraldo's upgraded turret on round 71 and put it at the back of the track to pop any leakers. The closest round was 76, where the Regrow ceramics basically made it to the end of the track before the turret and bunny popped them all. Through the end of round 77, I was desperately trying to save up enough to afford the Grandmaster, but even with selling the NFT, we wouldn't be able to get it early enough to make a difference. So on round 78, I finally started spending our money. We put a sharpening stone on the ninja, camo potted Geraldo, blade trapped the first ceramic rush, put a spicy potion on the ninja, and blade trapped the camo ceramics at the end of the round. Next, we put down our one and only genie on round 79 to pop the BFBs and help with the ZOMG. And finally, we put pickles on the ninja and placed a creepy idol in the left of the triangle to make sure we wouldn't leak. And just like that, we beat half cash with over $35,000 left over. 3 difficulties left and 10 monkeys to beat them. We got this. Next up is ABR. Obviously, we started with Sada. She crushed the first several rounds, not letting anything leak. This let us get the heli pilot in the middle of round 8, and we locked its positioning right next to her. The next pick was clear. Get the druid. But then chat had an idea. Why don't we see if Sada and the heli can do this by themselves, and then we can have the druid as a backup for the next 2 modes. Genius. So with that, we started upgrading the heli. Up first was getting IFR so he could help Sada with camo balloons, and the next was working our way up the top path, as once we make him a 320, he'll be able to pop leads for us. Currently, we're using Sada's level 3 ability to pop all the leads, which can be pretty scary to rely on. The first close call we had with these was on rounds 24 and 25. We used Sword Leap to pop the 4 leads on 24, but then it was on cooldown for the camo lead that leads round 25. I tried to place our swords so that the lasting effect would pop it, but they just barely didn't last long enough. Luckily, this guy is so slow that Sword Leap came back off cooldown once it was nearing the end of the track, so we could pop it that way. And with the money of this round, we were able to pick up Razor Rotor. With our Heli on pursuit mode, he kept the balloons at or near the entrance basically until round 40. Sada was just sitting there pondering life, waiting for balloons to make it to her. But the first one that did was the Fortified Moab. We popped its outer layer about halfway through the map and then cleaned up the insides with a Sword Leap and a few attacks. I would like to say we went right back to coasting, but the 40s in ABR are much more difficult than that of a normal game. Ceramics and Moabs were routinely making it to Sada. She was always enough to stop them, but they were getting further than we'd like. The nice thing though was that we were racking up the money. In fact, we got the Apache Dart Ship on round 47, which could not have been timed better. This was the first round that I thought balloons might get past Sada, as there were 3 Moabs getting pretty far. But once we got the Dart Ship, we pushed the balloons back to the entrance and started plowing through the rounds once again. Moabs would barely make it to Sada, and we were really only saving up for the Apache Prime upgrade. So in the middle of the run, I took my opportunity to go to the bathroom. This was a long challenge and I really had to go. Plus, we've never lost while my gaming chair is in charge, so I knew we were in good hands. I came back to round 58 where we were still crushing it. This continued to the 70s where really only fortified Moabs and BFBs would make it far, but even those weren't close to leaking. And at the start of round 73, we upgraded the heli to a 520 Apache Prime. With the rest of our money, we upgraded Sada as much as we we could, but she never attacked again. The Apache Prime popped everything before they made it to her. What a relaxing run for Sada. But with that, we saved the Druid and we're on to Impoppable, the first difficulty where we can't leak it all. We brought in Churchill, a Dart Monkey, Ace, Banana Farm, and we threw in the Druid since we didn't use him last run. We started this run with the Ace and Dart, set the Ace to Wing Monkey, and hit play. This handled the rounds just fine and let us get down a Banana Farm near the end of round 11. Was this greedy? Yes, but we'll need some serious cash if we want a bunch of tier 5s and a max level Churchill. So we spent the next few rounds getting this farm to a 2-0-0 before upgrading our defenses. This let a ton of Bloons get close to leaking in the teens, but pretty quickly we were able to upgrade our Dart Monkey to a crossbow. From here, we saved up for Churchill, getting him at the start of round 23. Not a bad timing for him at all. This gave us a ton of extra popping power as well as not having to worry about leads basically for the rest of the run. But now it was time to make our banana farm a bank. This is super early compared to what I normally do, but because we can only get one of them down, I figured the earlier we get it, the better. We got this on round 34 and instantly went back to our crossbow, making him a sharpshooter. Now, this will likely give us plenty of popping power for a while, so we actually went back over to the bank and upgraded it to an IMF loan on round 43. This can hold even more money. We can deposit cash into it to speed up its money making process, and if we need, it has an ability to loan us some money. With this steady form of income, we upgraded our Ace to a 2-3-0 bomber and saved up for a crossbow master. This only took a few rounds as we collected from our IMF and used its loan ability to get cash early, allowing us to make our Dart Monkey a 0-2-5 on round 50. Between this guy and Churchill, we could probably make it to round 80 as is, but there wasn't a reason to do that, so we upgraded our Ace to a ground 0 on round 60 and a Tsar Bomba on 66. We were making money so fast it was crazy, and all that was left was to upgrade Churchill to level 20. But Chet had another good idea. What if we upgraded the IMF loan to a Monkeynomics, a tower that I almost never get, but boy is it fun to use its ability and not have to pay anything back. So that's what we did. For the next 25 rounds, we just popped Bloons and made money. But that brings us to round 91. We had our same towers and $90,000 ready to spend, but that's still 30k off this tier 5 upgrade. It was clear that we need an upgrade in DPS soon, as just a group of BFBs on this round made it super far. I mean, a green Bloon made it all the way to the end, only to be popped by a road spike. Luckily for us, we had abilities ready to be used. For the next few rounds, we kind of spammed Churchill's abilities. On 92, we used both of his and barely squeaked by. On 93, we just used Churchill's artillery barrage once all the DDTs were on screen, and we beat the round fairly easily. And on round 94, we used both whenever they were off cooldown. And it was this round that I found out where I placed Churchill is his best spot on the map. Going into this run, I thought it looked nice as he'd have a few straightaways to shoot down, but look at how hard he clutched up at the end of round 94. I mean, he popped so many super ceramics when they were going around the bow tie on the right side of the track. But this brings us to round 95, where we could finally afford the Monkeynomics upgrade. Our kind of pointless task is completed, but now we need to pop the 30 DDTs. We waited until the screen was full of them to drop a Tsar Bomba. This popped most of them, but we cleaned up the remaining few with an artillery barrage, and this leaves us with two options: spending our money upgrading Churchill, or place down the Druid. Just like last difficulty, we figured trying to win without the Druid was the way to go, as it'd make chimps a bit easier. So we started saving up. We popped everything but the ZOMGs on 96 with the Ace's ability, waited for a while they marched down the track, and then popped those with another Tsar Bomba. I was having way too much fun with this ability, as I almost never go this path on the Ace, but this accidental stall was actually useful. Because we didn't one-shot the round, our Monkeynomics ability came off cooldown and gave us a free 10 grand. And because we purchased this so late, we really needed to maximize its abilities to try to pay it off. Next was round 97, where we didn't use any abilities until some of the Bloons were getting pretty far. Here we dropped a Tsar Bomba and moved on to round 98. I don't think it was quite necessary, but like I said, I was having fun with it. For the insanely packed round 98, we spammed Churchill's ability. This looked like it was getting overrun at first, but then the Bloons made it to the bow tie. Once again, Churchill started putting in work, popping hundreds of super ceramics in this spot. But at the end of the round, we did end up leaking. Luckily, Churchill easily buys us enough time to get our Tsar Bomba off cooldown, so on the second try, we wiped the screen with it. But that put us in a pickle for round 99. We had to pop the fortified DDTs with basically everything off cooldown. After one attempt, it was clearly we weren't going to pop them, so we had to do the unspeakable. Sell the Monkeynomics and use the money to max out Churchill. This shortened his artillery barrage's cooldown enough to use on the DDTs, popping them all before they leaked. and all that was left was the bad. It took 2 artillery barrages and some main attacks to take out its outer layer, then we dropped the bomb on the insides to pop the DDTs and used armor-piercing shells to clean up the rest. With that, all that's left is chimps, and we have ETN, the Buccaneer, Spectre, and Druid to beat it. We started off with a Buccaneer in the center of the map and hit play. Now, I had no idea what upgrades we were going to get, so I was kind of just saving up some money. But after leaking on round 8, we picked up Grape Shot to make it easy on ourselves. Could we have microed the base buck to beat the round? Yes. But I figured we'd likely get Grape Shot anyway. From here, we were able to save up for ETN. We actually had enough money to get him on round 12, but I was in the middle of setting up a poll to decide what paths we should go for our other tower. We finished setting up that poll on round 14, and I promptly placed ETN in our favorite triangle. This handled the rounds fine, and the poll finished on round 20. We found out that the Trade Empire is the tower of choice for this run. So we upgraded our buck to a 0-1-1 for some extra pierce, and then placed our druid to the left of him. This guy will become a Spirit of the Forest, so I wanted him in the center of as much track as possible for his thorns later on. We slowly upgraded him to a 1-4-0 Jungle's Bounty, getting this on round 37. Then we made our boat a 0-2-2 for more camo detection and lead popping power. This will help us pop the camo whites at the end of this round while we wait for ETN to hit level 8 and give everything camo detection. Next, we placed down our last monkey of the challenge, the Spectre, right above the Druid. This guy will be a carpet of spikes later on, so I wanted his home base of spikes to be deep enough into the track that the ceramics won't use as pierce, but early enough to help with blimps. By the time the Moab came on round 40, we had a 1-2-0 Spectre, a 0-2-2 Buccaneer, a 1-4-0 Druid, and ETN. Not the best bunch for popping a Moab, but with the use of ETN's drone swarm, we were able to pop the Moab layer once it made it to the Spectre, and the insides were super easy to deal with as the Jungle's Bounty instantly popped a couple of the ceramics, leaving barely anything for the other towers to clean up. From here, we made our Spectre a 1-3-0 Moab Shredder and started saving all our money. What big upgrade we were going to get next was still a mystery to us, but a tier 5 is what we're looking for. The next several rounds were very easy. If there weren't Moabs, our Druid would basically solo the round, and if there were, the Spectre would pop their outer layers. Things were going smooth. Too smooth. So naturally, chat convinced me to do something silly. We got the Trade Empire as our first tier 5 of the run, risking it all just to get our meme tower first. Admittedly, this did increase our damage a bit, but basically any other upgrade would have helped more. Luckily, we had ETN's UCAV to lean on if needed, but the Trade Empire was actually putting in work, popping the likes of round 63 without needing an ability until the 3rd rush. Not bad. We used the new UCAV for this, and because it was the end of round 63, it stayed around for a bit into 64, popping the first few Moab. So 64 wasn't difficult either. From here, we kind of coasted. Sure, the Bloons were getting really far each round, and we were popping the last of them in the bow tie, but other than that, we were fine. As it turns out, we didn't even have to use an ability until round 71, where I got a little too scared of the Moab. We might have been fine, but I didn't want to risk it. This was okay though, as the next time we used an ability was round 75, where we needed to pop all the BFBs that end that round. It didn't clean up everything, but once again, Jungle's Bounty came in clutch, finishing off the Bloons in the bow tie. We used Drone Swarm for 76 and 77, and we countered both ceramic rushes of 78 with a UCAV. This gave us enough money to get the Spirit of the Forest, making our Druid a 2-5-0. Instantly, our defenses got much stronger, which could not have come at a better time, as super ceramics are just a few rounds away. Next, it was time to make a carpet of spikes, so we quickly upgraded our Spectre to a 1-4-0 Spike Storm and started saving money once again. Nothing was really an issue, but we did use Spike Storm a couple times in the 80s just to speed up the round. And before the DDT started coming, we picked up White Hot Spikes so the Spectre could help with them going forward. It was clear that the 90s were a step up in difficulty, but still we weren't too scared. It wasn't until round 93 where we used the Spike Storm's ability out of need for the first time, as I wanted to pop the DDTs before they made it too far. But after we popped these and a few BFBs, we got the money for a carpet of spikes, the last tier 5 of the run. I personally love it when the track is covered with thorns and spikes, which is why I went these two paths. But it's also nice that both of these towers are in a decent spot power-wise. The rest of the 90s were taken out pretty easily. The carpet of spikes popped all the blimp layers, and the Spirit of the Forest took care of the rest. Sure, the Trade Empire and ETN were doing their fair share of pops, but they were definitely getting carried at this point in the run. ETN hit level 20 on round 99, leaving us with nothing else to spend money on, so we're going to finish with a decent amount left over. The fortified DDTs didn't stand a chance against our towers, as they got popped before they even reached ETN, and the bad didn't do much better. Its outer layer popped in the bottom left square, and its children were taken out shortly after. But with that Chimp's run, we beat every difficulty of Frozen Over without reusing a single monkey or hero. If you want to see me do this on Candy Falls or Cubism, click on these videos right here.